So hi Sasha, welcome back. Did you find everything okay again getting here as well?
Yeah, I didn't get lost this time on the way to the office, so that's
Good. Okay, so before we begin today, do you just want to tell me a little bit about how your last week has been for you?
Sure. This past week, in all honesty, it just feels like my symptoms, and everything is getting worse. My sleep's gotten worse because I've been having more flashbacks, and the flashbacks themselves seem not just more frequent but more intense, and it's like a nightmare every time. And whenever I have the flashbacks, my heart just starts beating so fast, and then like it just feels like I'm about to have a heart attack all the time, and it's before bed that just completely makes me feel awake, and so I haven't been able to sleep pretty much all week. If I do fall asleep, I wake up and automatically my mind is on the car accident, and I don't know, that's all I can think about. And I find myself almost walking around my environment even more, just like looking for things that I need to, pay attention to, in case they might, I don't know, be harmful, like the car accident was. I'm just afraid that something like that is going to happen again. And like I know that there's nothing to be afraid of, but I can't stop feeling like there is one, and so my muscles are so tense, and yeah, it just is getting worse. Nothing's helping.
Okay. So you've been walking around feeling really tense, you mentioned, and having the flashbacks more frequently, not just before you go to sleep when you're thinking about the car accident, but also when you wake up in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming that this disruption in your sleep is causing you to feel a lot more tired during the day, and that combined with having tense body all the time, like you must be exhausted.
Yeah, I haven't been able to sleep, and like it's affecting me really, really badly. I can't concentrate. I don't feel like meeting up with my friends. I have no energy to do any of my work, so my work and performance is impaired. And then to add on top of that, like a couple days after I left your office last week, I was on my way to work, and I take the bus now because there's absolutely no way I can get into a car. I can barely even look at cars without even thinking, like my accident, I almost, and so last week on the way to work, I was just sitting on the bus, minding my own business, and all of a sudden I hear this big bang, and I look out the window, and there was a car accident almost right beside the bus, and it wasn't bad. It wasn't head on. It was just a simple fender bender, but just the noise brought me back to that moment when I was in my car accident, and immediately I was having all these images, and it was a flashback. It was probably the worst one I've ever had, and instant panic attack. I couldn't go to work. I haven't been able to go to work since that bus ride and being triggered, and I'm just too afraid to even go out because I don't want to, have this anxiety because I'm thinking about it anymore.
So that noise triggered you to have a panic attack. You said your heart was beating fast, you had trouble breathing.
Yeah.
And on top of that, are you maybe more sensitive now to the other noises in your environment?
Yeah, so since that, like all the time when I walk around, even in my own home, any noise just makes me jump. I'm just so on edge, and, I'm constantly looking for things that I'm afraid of, but there's nothing.
So you're constantly on edge, and you're almost like hyper aware of your environment.
Yeah.
So what we call that is actually hypervigilance.
Oh.
So you're constantly kind of on the lookout for things that are going to maybe happen to you.
Yeah.
And if you're already tired, experiencing, the flashbacks, which are interfering with your sleep, the traumatic memories, then those things combined can be very exhausting to the person.
Yeah, and at this point, I just feel pretty hopeless that things are going to start improving. I believe that they are. I just don't know how or when I'm going to start feeling better. I'm going to start feeling like myself again.
So I just kind of want to ask you then, this past week on a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being I feel great, nothing's wrong with me, things are fine, and 10 being I can't cope, things are really terrible, I don't know how I'm going to make it through. On that scale from 0 to 10, where do you think that you would be right now?
I would say I'm probably at an 8 or an 8.5.
So like an 8, 8.5?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just kind of want to summarize quickly again then everything that you've told me from this past week. So a couple days after you left my office, you've been taking the bus because driving's been a little bit more challenging for you ever since the accident. You mentioned that you haven't been able to drive or even really looking at cars has kind of been hard for you.
Yeah.
And that maybe that collision kind of set you off that sound, which is causing you to be a little bit more hyper aware of your environment. And then you're also experiencing a lot more flashbacks, a little bit more intensely and frequently, you mentioned?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's also been disrupting your sleep,
Yeah.
and so you've just been really exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
Did I miss anything in there?
No, just a whole bunch of stuff going on.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So I want to ask you then, do you know anything about trauma? I know we kind of talked about it a little bit last week, but...
Only that we talked about how, it's just, it happens, and yeah, it's just a event or situation that's really distressing, and then it's hard to let go of for some people.
Right. So would it be okay with you if I maybe explained a little bit more about why you're experiencing the things you are and a little bit more about trauma? Yeah? Okay. So I'm going to use the whiteboard here to explain, kind of maybe give you a visual of what happens to your brain when you experience trauma. Okay. So if this is your brain when you're experiencing trauma, what happens is your body, it starts to produce a whole bunch of these chemicals called cortisol. So cortisol is a hormone that your body produces when you kind of experience a lot of stress, and trauma causes our body a lot of stress. So if our body's producing these hormones, there's certain parts of our brain that are affected. So one of the main parts is the amygdala. So your amygdala is what causes us to sense fear. So if a bear is running after us and we need to run away, the amygdala is what's going to tell us to do that. So it senses when there's fear around. And when there is fear around, the amygdala tells us to either fight, flight, or freeze. So if you're being attacked by that bear and you want to fight back, the amygdala is what's going to tell you to do that. Or it might tell you to run away, which is probably the more likely option there. And then sometimes it tells us to just kind of freeze or play dead. So this would be kind of when we're feeling more like numb. We don't really feel anything, we're just kind of existing. So when our body experiences this cortisol and the amygdala is there, it's kind of overactive, so it's a little bit louder than it should be. And because the amygdala is like overactive, it causes other parts of our brain, like the hippocampus, to kind of fade into the background a little bit more. So our hippocampus here is kind of responsible for our memories and our learning. Okay? And then there's also a part of our brain up here called the prefrontal cortex. I like to call it the PFC for short. And this is kind of where we get our logic, and where we can organize things, where we can plan. So it's kind of like our home control center, like our computer. I don't know if I can draw a computer there. Our computer for our brain. So when we're experiencing the trauma, all the cortisol from our body is kind of flooding up, our amygdala is screaming, the hippocampus flows into the background, so the learning that we would get from the situation and all of our memories from that situation, they're a little bit harder to recall, and our prefrontal cortex also kind of fades into the background. So where our logic would tell us there's no trauma here or there's nothing to run away from, like we kind of ignore it because we're just listening to this. And after a trauma, it becomes so overactive that we don't know when we should listen to it. So for you, for example, on the bus, when you heard that sound, your prefrontal cortex couldn't tell you there's not really any fear there because your amygdala was screaming, which was causing, your heart to beat really fast and you'd have trouble breathing, as you mentioned. So does all of this kind of make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
And the one kind of big important thing that also goes along with this is that even though our amygdala is overactive, this is not permanent damage. So our brain's been trained to do this, but it doesn't have to stay like that. The trauma that people experience is just the symptoms that they experience, so the flashbacks, being hypervigilant to their environment, like you mentioned, that's just normal. That's a normal experience to an abnormal event. So the car accident for you is abnormal, and your body giving you all these different symptoms, because of your amygdala, it's completely normal. So does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Do you want to maybe explain it back to me a little bit, if you want to?
Yeah, sure. So you were saying that the stress hormones, the cortisol,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm stressed, affect my amygdala, set it off, and that affects the other structure,
Mm-hmm.
the
The hippocampus. Yep.
Yeah, so that it doesn't work, and I can't learn or remember very well.
Mhm.
And then also, that other structure, the PFC, is also in the background, so I can't plan anything, use logic, or organize anything. And so all that I'm kind of using to interpret everything is just that emotional thing.
Mhm.
And
So-
that's just making me feel, hypervigilant and just on edge all the time, which is explaining why I feel all these symptoms.
Right. So as our amygdala is screaming at us, we can't really listen to the other parts of our brain because it's just so loud.
Okay. And this is normal after a car accident.
So after a trauma, it's normal for our amygdala to be a little bit overactive.
Okay.
And these symptoms are really there to protect us.
Okay.
So it's more of an adaptive response, but it doesn't have to stay like this.
Okay. That makes sense.
So if we move on a little bit then, to help you with some of the symptoms that you mentioned experiencing, I can teach you some different kind of techniques. So if you're interested, do you want to learn about them?
Very interested.
Okay. So there's 3 different types of what they're called as grounding techniques that I want to kind of teach you about. So do you like to color? I know we kind of mentioned it last time. If you want to pick one of these books here.
I'll take that.
That one? Okay. I can actually color a little bit while I explain some of them. So you can pick whatever color you want.
Okay.
You can just flip a page if you want and just color a little bit. And there's lots to pick from. So how come you picked red?
It's my favorite color.
It's your favorite color?
Yeah.
To kind of make you feel good, a little empowered maybe?
No, I just like it.
Just like it?
Yeah, it's a very bold accent color, so
Yeah.
I like it for that reason.
Kind of hard to stay in the lines.
Yeah, I'm not very good at this.
So this coloring here, it's kind of a mix between 2 of the grounding techniques that I talked to you a little bit about. So it's a little bit mental. It kind of takes your brain away from what you're thinking about your situation because you're focused on maybe staying in the lines and picking colors and just engaged in something else. But it's also physical because you're doing something with your body. And the purpose of these grounding techniques is to kind of keep us in the present moment so that our mind isn't as distracted. So if coloring is something that you really enjoy, you can always get a coloring book, and if you're feeling really anxious, about having flashbacks or experience any symptoms where you're having trouble breathing, maybe sitting down and coloring might be able to kind of bring you back down a little bit.
Okay.
So there's coloring. And then there's also different mental things that you can do as well to ground yourself into the present moment. So I don't know if you like crosswords or Sudokus or anything like that, but if you wanted to pick up a book and do some crosswords, word searches, whatever you want, that can also kind of mentally distract your mind. But you can also do things if you don't have that with you, or maybe if you're on the bus, or if you hear a noise, that can just kind of distract you a little bit more, but bring you into the present. You can just name colors around you. So if you want to name some of the colors in this room, for example.
So beige
Mhm.
and gray.
Mhm.
The light switches are white. The chair is green, and the other chair is like maybe charcoal or navy blue.
So you can also kind of describe objects too. So do you want to describe this whiteboard a little bit?
Sure. So it's got 2 black strips on the top and the bottom, and on the sides the strips are a little bit thinner than the black strips and silver. The whiteboard is white, and in the bottom right-hand corner on the black strip there's a little silver thing that says quartet, and then there's a shell.
Okay, good. So how do you feel after kind of doing those few activities?
Yeah, I felt like when I was describing the whiteboard, it really brought me back into like the present moment.
Good. All right, so one of the other types of grounding that we can do is called physical grounding. So I have a stress ball here, so you can take this home with you if you want. So what you can do is you can just squeeze the stress ball. If you didn't want to use the stress ball or didn't have it with you, you can just squeeze your hands, kind of tense them up, then just release it. So how does that feel? Can you describe when you squeeze the ball and then when you release it?
When I'm squeezing it, it's a little bit hard
Mhm.
to, squeeze.
Mhm.
And then when I release it, it just feels like there's an elastic spring or something pushing my hand outwards.
Okay. And how does the ball feel when you just touch it?
It feels smooth,
Smooth,
round,
round.
a little bit soft.
And if you maybe just take your hands and like touch your pants, just rub them, how does that feel for you?
That feels nice.
Can you describe the feeling?
It feels almost relaxing, like I can feel it on my legs and on my hands.
Okay. Can you feel the heat from your hands at all?
Yeah, and the heat moving on my legs from my hands.
And then another thing you can do as well is you can kind of, whether you're standing or sitting, is just like dig your heels into the ground. So just kind of, letting yourself know that you're here, that you're in a safe spot, and these feelings kind of bring you into the present moment.
Okay.
And then there's last type of grounding that I haven't quite talked to you about yet, so that's soothing. So soothing grounding is when you take something around you that kind of calms you down, whether it's maybe burning a candle or some incense, or even just eating a piece of chocolate that you really like, or even, I don't know if you like gum.
That's
I have some
okay.
gum here. Do you want to have a piece?
I'll pass for today.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you ever wanted to, you could take a piece and then you can just, taste it, see how it feels in your mouth. If it's mint gum, you can kind of think about the minty flavor. And something like that is something that you can do before you go to bed, just to kind of bring yourself, like, I'm in my room, I'm in a safe spot. What else do you have that's maybe soothing to you or that you like and enjoy?
When I'm really stressed out, I find that like chamomile tea really helps ease a lot of the tension and makes me relaxed.
Okay, so that would also be something that you could do then, just make yourself a tea if you can or go out and get one, and then that'll kind of just calm you down. Another thing that you could do is even, I don't know if you have any pictures on your phone when you carry it with you, but look at the pictures
I like that.
and just kind of, you can just bring yourself back to that moment. It'll just kind of make you feel good for a moment.
Yeah, I think that would be a really good strategy.
So do you think that some of the things, whether the physical, the mental, or the soothing things that we talked about, are something that you could do when you're feeling that kind of anxiety?
I feel like I could do them, and I would definitely be up for giving them a try.
Okay. So if you want to give them a try then next time we meet next week, we can see how that goes.
Yeah.
But before you leave, On a scale of 0 to 10 now, how are you feeling after doing all of those different grounding techniques?
Feeling maybe like a 7.
Like a 7? Okay,
Yeah.
so it's gone down a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want to incorporate some of those into your week, then we can see how they goes and maybe adjust them if we have to.
That sounds good.
Thanks for
Okay,
coming in.
Thanks.